Season 2 of DTBY's community podcast hosted by the CYC.
We are a movement dedicated to inspiring, mentoring, and building the leadership qualities of tomorrow's leaders.
Last season, our focus was promoting inclusivity and raising awareness about organizations making a difference in our community.
Season, we're focusing on individuals who are creating impact on the lives of youth.
Before we introduce this episode's guest, we would first like to offer a land acknowledgement.
Although this gathering is virtual, we recognize that DTBY convenes on the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of many nations, including the Haudenosaunee and the Huron-Wendat peoples, also serving as home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples.
At the Dare to Be Youth charity, we are proud to promote the spirit of helping, sharing, and caring for our neighbors without the expectation that has been exemplified by each of these nations as the first peoples of this land for thousands of years. And we wish to acknowledge our gratitude for the ongoing opportunity to live, work, and build community on this land.
It is our collective responsibility to care for each other, to care for these lands. And it is past time to turn reflection into action. We challenge ourselves and everyone here today to commit to one tangible next step to move this work forward.
Welcome back to DTBY's Community Podcast, and welcome to the 4th episode of our new season. My name is Grace, and I'll be the host for this episode alongside my fellow CYC member, Rachel. On behalf of DTBY and the rest of CYC, it is our pleasure to welcome Steve, the CEO and co-founder of Mini Giants, the sponsor of this podcast, and one of our longtime supporters. Thank you so much for joining us.
It is absolutely my pleasure.
Okay, so the first question is, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
All right. Well, my name's Steve Cousins. I'm a resident of Burlington. It's where I grew up, moved away as a young adult and came back as an older adult, and I love my community. I am the co-founder and operate a company called Mini Giants. And it's a multifaceted organization. We call it a business ecosystem for business, supplying different manufacturing services and marketing services. And I'm known as a serial entrepreneur, but as I've started to get a little bit older, I've settled down a little and don't try new things as often. I'm a massive community supporter. I believe in giving back when you can to your community, and overall, just a pretty happy guy.
All right, thank you.
Our next question is, how did Mini Giants get involved with DTBY?
That's a great question. So it's ironically, both of my daughters, one still in the Halton District School Board and one who's moved into and finished her undergrad at Guelph, both went to a school in Burlington called Aldershot, and Aldershot is one of the local high schools in our community, and I've been the chair of that high school for too many years, I think 11 years of the school council, and I was asked to support DTBY in getting access to the administrators at the school so that DTBY could introduce the concept to the administration and then the students. So that's how I originally got connected.
Okay. Our third question is, why do you support DTBY's mission?
That's another really good question, because I think this is probably one of the more important ones for people to understand what DTBY is and why it's actually such an important value more than ever. And I think our young people's drive to success and after graduation, where they're going to be, because it's becoming a tougher and tougher world. And I think that the emphasis on strength in person, strength and knowledge, and getting that confidence to be who you want to be is lacking in most areas. And I think now with DTBY, those who get involved really see that value proposition and give them, and I've seen it firsthand with many of the individuals that have gone through DTBY and still are in it. Their confidence in themselves is so much more apparent, and what they get to become is now got more grasp. So I don't know if that explains it well enough for you.
Our fourth question. Yeah, that's a great answer. So our fourth question is, this year we will be hosting our third annual Community Day Summit on November 5th. This year our theme is impact. And so we want to ask you, what experiences have impacted you and shaped you into the person that you are today?
Wow, that's so, for the young audience we're looking at here, I'm an old guy, so I've got, unfortunately or fortunately, I've got lots of different experiences that I've had to go through in my life so far, and some of them have been very positive, and those positive experiences have certainly given me the motivation and confidence to keep moving forward in whatever direction I was going through at that time. But the negative experiences in my life have also been probably the most important learning tools for me, because the negative experiences are the ones that stand out usually. And I can tell you that, I've had failures in business, and those failures in business, although at the time were devastating and hard to grasp and want to kind of stay focused, but as you get through them and past them, you look at the reasons why you may have not succeeded. And when you're honest with yourself and you have confidence that you can be honest with yourself, you start to realize that those issues or those decisions that led to the failure are great learning experiences to help you in the next experience that you have, to make sure you're not making the same kinds of quick decisions or bad decisions or choices in your life. So from a business standpoint, my failures in business, and I've had a few, have absolutely, now I look back, are all the things that allow me to actually be more consistently successful in life, in business. And on a personal level, we all go through things in life, and my personal negatives, at the time seemed like, end of the world. But when you can get past them, you look at those, and they're actually my strengths of who I am today. And I like who I am today. So I don't know if that helps you in that thought process.
Why do you choose to make an impact today?
Well, we all get busy with life. And when you have a job and you have a family and all those things, it really absorbs a lot of your time. And you always hear the need that's out there in your community, at all kinds of levels, whether it's with youth and their mental health, or food insecurity, or seniors, whatever it is. You watch the struggles that that go on every day around you in your community, but you're too busy. And what I found was, when I finally stopped saying I was too busy and put some time into the community, the rewards were overpowering. You don't have to have money. You don't have to have a lot other than your commitment to doing something for somebody else. And when you actually realize it can be an hour a month. It doesn't have to be an hour a day or an hour a week. It doesn't have to have a dollar attached to it. But when you actually give back to various community organizations, and know that your time in, and potentially your resources, other resources, actually make a difference in one person's life, that's what makes me want to do it more and more all the time. It's almost addictive. So for me now, as I've kind of gone through a lot of things in my life, my passion is absolutely about giving back to our community, and DTBY is one of those, I believe, very important pieces in the puzzle for our community.
Awesome. Our next question is, what is the importance of impact in the lives of young people?
Well, I have a 17 and a 23-year-old daughter, and I've watched the challenges just between those two age groups. So watching my older daughter and the challenges she had in her high school years and her young university years, and then watching the challenges my 17-year-old has today are already showing a big difference, and it's harder and harder, I think, for young people to figure out where they fit in the world and how they become who they want to be, because the peer pressures, the world pressures, I've just gotten more in depth and more prevalent in the everyday thought process. And I think so for young people today, I see how hard it is for them to figure out how they can be singular in their efforts, to be confident in themselves when the competition's tough, the peer pressure's tough, and then you add things like a pandemic, and the challenges in competing in education for your career. There's so many things that seem to be really exasperated and much more prevalent than when I was a kid. And so I want young people to know that there is the upside, because I could see it. I see it all the time, that it's just this challenge every single day between school, between even just the peer pressure and what you wear. In today's world, everything is all about brand awareness, and all of these things have an impact, and everybody's struggling. And I think if we can do one thing to help one young person feel confident about themselves, and that's all that counts. If you like who you are, it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks. And I think that's one of the things that DTBY does so well, so that you can take on those challenges that you're confronted with and not allow them to have that everlasting impact. You can push them aside and move towards your goals as a person. So I just think young people today really need the support of our community more so than ever.
Great. And our last question is, how could you have benefited from having more mentorship and support as a young person?
Wow. Again, it goes back to age differences. It kind of relates to our last conversation, our last question and answer, the depth of all the things that you as young people today have to deal with, especially when you're hitting that final stages. I'm looking at the two of you, and I'm assuming you're probably both in high school still, or about to, getting ready within a year or two to hit that higher education, if that's your goal. And the pressure points are so different than when I was a young person, in so many different ways. And if I'd had a DTBY or other organizations that gave me that safe place to learn about me and to learn about what I can be and the things that I could do and can do, I probably wouldn't have made half the mistakes I made as a young person. Because those mistakes, as I say, they're valuable in your long-term life experiences and making better decisions. But if you don't have to go through them, life is a lot easier. And I think if I'd had some of the tools that you have today as young people, and feel comfortable actually accessing them, because I do understand that, I think I would have been a lot faster at being the nice person I like to think I am today, and how I feel about myself. It took me too many years to get there, and I would love to see the youth of today have that confidence to move forward in a much more efficient manner.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That concludes this episode of DTBY's Community Podcast. On behalf of the rest of the CYC and DTBY, I would like to thank you for supporting youth and creating an impact in your community. If you're interested in becoming a change partner like Steve and joining our growing movement, head over to our website to learn about the different ways you can contribute.